Welcome to Mud Fossils, the Heart of the Matter, Part 1. This isn't meant to be an introduction to the topic of mud fossils, so if you're not already familiar with the topic and you haven't seen any of my earlier videos, I highly recommend that you go back and have a look, as they'll give a simpler explanation, and I'll also post some links to some other great channels in the show notes that are covering the mud fossil, mud flood topic. In this video, I won't be touching on the theme of titans, but nevertheless, the topics are very much related, as the same conditions that would have led to the fossilization of the great elephant Mont Go would also have been at work on beings of all sizes. So if you have studied a bit of the mud fossil topic, then you might have experienced the same kinds of frustrations that I experienced, which is that a lot of times the videos cover people looking at different kinds of rocks and pointing out features that you can sort of see, but maybe they're there, maybe they're not. So I was a little bit frustrated by that, because even though I know a lot of anatomy, sometimes I was looking at these rocks and people were making statements about them like they were fact, and I was like, okay, well, maybe, and maybe not. So I thought, well, if the whole mud fossil thing is true, then there ought to be a rock out there somewhere that would just completely shatter the prevailing geological paradigm. In other words, a single rock that had so many coincidences that you couldn't help but think, well, maybe there's actually something to this. So that was when I decided to just put out a little message to the universe and request that it send me just such a specimen. It wasn't long after, a few days actually, that I was on a walk in a river bottom and I came across a rock that fit that category. And I believe that it's completely groundbreaking. If you've seen my previous videos, then you know what a lengthy list of coincidences I managed to gather in relationship to the mountain Mont Go. And with the topic that I'm going to be covering today, I'd say that the list is already growing quite long. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the rock that I found that changed the way that I view the world today. Now, if you don't know anything about heart anatomy, don't worry about it, because I'll be going through things and there will be a lot of repetition. But once you've started to recognize these structures, it's very easy to go out and find these rocks for yourself. And I'll talk more about that in the next video. But let me just back this up for a minute and show you right here. So what we're looking at here are the openings for the pulmonary arteries. And this is the coronary artery, and then this is what's known as the coronary sulcus. The left atrium and the left ventricle of the heart, and then this is the marbling that you'll see in a moment. So let me just bring that up. So if we look at the heart here, this is your coronary sulcus right there. The ventricle, this side of the heart is the side that has the thick muscle, and this side is much thinner and it's got more open space. So the majority of the pumping is done by the left ventricle. This is your aorta up here, and we'll see when this turns around that there's an opening for the aorta on the back side. So if you just look at the overall look of this rock, I mean, it's got the color of flesh, especially if I spray it with a bit of water, it really starts to look fleshy. And already, just from this one face, you can make out the overall shape. Imagine the bottom of this tilted over that way, like what you're seeing here. So if we look here, you can really make out the coronary artery. Here's the fatty area that I was talking about that you see right here, and the coronary sulcus. Sulcus is just the word for indentation, and that's exactly what you see here, an indentation, and there's an opening right here where the arrow is that you can't see. And then up at the top here where it's chunky, this is where all of the blood vessels are, and also the parts of the heart that attach into the pleura. I'll show that in just a moment. You can see the inside of the heart here, the chambers. These are the tendinous cords that actually, when the muscles here contract, they pull on these cords, and then that opens the valves of the heart for the pumping. This is known as the pericardium. It's the sac that the heart is in, and that's fascia. And we'll be talking more about that in a second as well. But let's look a little bit more at this heart. So right there, there's a bump that sticks up here, and there's another one here that you can't see with the lighting right now, but I've actually gotten an endoscopic camera which I can use to go inside these holes and view what's inside. So we'll be seeing that in a moment. But this is exactly what you would expect to find with the pulmonary artery openings. These bumps are the papillary muscles, and when those contract, the valves are opened. Now, if you notice here, all these areas where it's a little bit reddish, that's not dirt or mud that's caked to it. That's areas where this white has been rubbed away. And wherever the white has been rubbed away, then it's red, because this is flesh underneath, and the white is actually that fascial sac that I was just talking about here, which is known as the pericardium. All of the organs of the body are in their own fascial sac. So when the mud fossil process happens, it happens within that sac. So as the body breaks apart into different bits, the organs stay, for the most part, the shape that they were. So here you can see the pulmonary veins and arteries. These are going to break away oftentimes and expose the channels with the valves inside. I'm looking at the top again. This is the investiture. So this is chunky, and many of the rocks that I've found that have this shape are missing portions right on the top here, but the rest of the rock is smooth, and I'll show you lots of examples of that in the second video. So this is looking at the pleura. So inside the chest cavity, we've got the lungs, and then you have the heart that's sitting here, and you can see the heart sac, which is the pericardium, and then you have the blood vessels coming up through that sac, and all of that attaches into a bigger sac, which is known as the pleura. And you'll see that here. Sorry for the gross picture, but now you can really get a sense of what I'm talking about. So here's the heart in situ in its location, tilted slightly to the left, or to our right. We've got the ventricle, the aorta, and this marbling. So you see that right there? That is this. So this is fascia. This is just showing that all of the different parts of the body from the head to the toe have fascia, and it's layered. So a muscle has smaller bits of muscle within it, and each of those smaller bits are covered in fascia. So the organs are covered in fascia, but fascia is throughout the entire body. It's your pericardium, and here's an example of what I was just talking about. So you've got these different sections, and then it breaks into smaller sections, and all of those sections are divided by the fascia. So obviously, if something is fossilized and it's going to break, it's going to cleave along these fascial lines. So very often when you find these kinds of rocks, if there's something that's missing, it'll be missing right at a portion that's significant as far as the anatomy goes. So this is just an image to show the sinuses that are inside the chambers. We'll be looking at these in a little bit, but they're little openings that go between the different chambers of the heart, and that'll be significant in a moment. See. So this is just, again, the top view showing here's the coronary opening, and then this is the investitures. And this is looking at the heart from above, and you can see where these openings would be. And then this would break off. I've yet to find one that has any of this remaining. So these are thinner structures that are held on with weaker structures. So that's going to break off as soon as there's any kind of motion and the rock is moving around. Okay, so now we're getting the front view of the heart here. So what you see here is the aorta opening, and this is the vena cava. The veins have much less pressure in them, and they also have valves, so they hold in their fluid more. So they're more likely to fossilize shut than the arteries are. And then this is the atrial ventricle opening. Oh, and I just want you to note this overall shape. So big on top, and this is where it's attaching. And then you've got these curves and these cutouts, and this is going to be coming back over and over again. You'll see this shape repeating itself. And I don't know about you, but I have a hard time imagining that these shapes would just be formed by the rock rolling around in a river bottom. So either it kind of had to start with this form, or yeah, there's something else going on. So that's already a ton of coincidences that have stacked up. We'll just take a look at this coincidence list. So overall form and morphology. Now imagine the bottom of this heart rotated about 30 degrees to the right, and then you would see it lining up with what you see here. So the cutouts here and here in the heart, you don't really see in this picture, but I'm going to show you live video in a minute. And as this heart beats, you'll notice that this contracts and it bends inward on both sides. And depending on the phase of contraction is going to determine the shape of the heart. And also, when the being dies and the ATP is no longer present, the heart contracts, but the ATP is necessary so that the fibers of the heart can release and the heart can relax. So it's very common to find them with this shape where it's curved on both sides. So the overall color, flesh, like I said before, if you spray it, you see that it's like that. Now for the marbling, we got to go to this other picture here. Here you see the marbling very clearly. The pericardium and heart fascia, we talked about that already. The aorta vena cava is this opening. And then these are the pulmonary arteries. And present in this and other rocks I found are also the valve structure and the papillary muscles, which are the muscles that contract to open the valves of the heart. And then the investitures are this top area that's kind of chunky and missing portions. You see it especially here, and this is where it attaches again. So the atrial chambers, we'll go through that in a minute with video, and the sinuses as well I'll show. Coronary arteries opening is here, and the coronary sulcus. So that's a heck of a lot of coincidences for one rock, don't you think? I mean, what are the odds, huh? Maybe it's just chance, right? That it just happened that way, and it's not actually a heart. It's just a big piece of another even larger rock that broke off, and it rolled around in the river bottom, and that's why it's the shape it is. And then the channels you could probably, I suppose, explain with gas bubbles or water erosion or something like that, but I think we'll debunk that idea also. Okay, we can use a little bit of video. This is for educational purposes and fair use. Without even starting the video, you can already see that this is in a bit of a contraction, and there's a curvature here that matches what you're seeing here. But this sticks out. So watch what happens as the blood is pumped through the heart. So we can get just a V shape. Let me slow it down. Right there. This is a very common shape where it curves in here, and it's either a flat edge here or slightly curved in. You can see the valves opening and closing. And as it turns around, these are the atriums, and here you see the aorta on top. When it contracts, it actually contracts in a spiral because of the directions of the fibers of the heart. Some say the heart functions more like a vortex than a pump. Here you see it. See how it's twisting as it pumps? So I'm just showing you this so you can get an idea of the overall morphology, and then if you want to go out and look for these in river bottoms, then you can do that. Or elsewhere. Beaches, I just found a bunch on the beach as well. Okay, so here you see the valves opening and closing. From the view from the inside. And here you can really see the papillary muscles. And all of this breaks off, including this side part here. It sticks up, that breaks off as well. And that gives you this shape that you're seeing here. And the other thing I just want you to think about is how soft and malleable this is. And this is, this heart isn't even alive, but it's still fresh. And, you can imagine if there's any compression at all from any direction, some things are going to close up and other things are going to remain open. And you'll see. So as you look in, now we're looking into the thicker left ventricle. See when he pushes his thumb up against here, how it gets creased. And oftentimes the flatter rocks will show this. So instead of having clearly defined openings like this, you get these indentations that have this kind of creased look. Or sometimes what you get is just the hint of an indentation. So it's like a discoloring that you can sort of get the feel that there was once a blood vessel there, but there's no real trace of it except for a discoloring. So that is what you're seeing over here, I think, because there's no opening, there's no channel going in there. It's just a big indentation. Okay, so now this is with an endoscopic camera, and we're going into the pulmonary openings, the openings for the pulmonary arteries. And here you can see the papillary muscles. And before I show you this, I just want to introduce you to another concept, which is this one. Okay, so there's a folding of the flesh that happens inside, but then you also have what are known as trabecula carne being flesh, and trabecula like trabecular bone if you saw my other videos. So this is the fleshy version of that. So you can imagine that when something like this fossilizes, it's going to be bumpy, right? It's not going to be some smooth surface like you would expect the heart to be. It's going to be different from that, and you'll see that in a moment. So just in case you're wondering what the color difference is, this has been moistened, so I've sprayed inside with water, so you can kind of see it. Even when it just gets wet, it almost looks biological. This one's dry, and this is a sinus, which is actually a passage between the chambers of the heart. And I had that open somewhere. Let's see here. Okay, here you can see it. The sinuses are here, here, and here in this picture. And that's what we're seeing here and here. And we're going in the other pulmonary artery opening, and you can really see this raised area here, which is the papillary muscle, and this bumpy trabecular carne. And we're actually looking through the chambers out the other side, which is the aortal opening right there. This is going into the coronary artery, which is this spot right here. And it's a little too small for me to get the camera in there, but you'll see a little bit of it. And you can see that it also looks very biological. Okay, now we're going into the aorta. You can really see that it's a chamber. It's not just a space in the rock. and it looks like a little sinus there as well. Take a look at that and compare that to these. It's almost like little pockets, right? But they're openings as well. And here you'll see the floor move a little bit as we look through the pulmonary arteries. So that concludes the things that I wanted to cover in this first part. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that the number of coincidences that center around this rock are astronomical, really. They're very specific, the locations are correct, and it doesn't seem like happenstance to me. So in the next video, I'm going to go into more detail and show you what I did once I discovered this and how I put the knowledge to good use and how you can do the same. I'll see you back here for part 2. Take care. Greetings, and welcome to Mud Fossils, the Heart of the Matter, Part 2. If you haven't already seen Part 1, I strongly urge you to go back and watch that first, as I go through all of the anatomy you'll need to be familiar with to get the most out of this video. If you've seen Part 1, but it's been a while, you may want to skim through it again at double or triple speed to refresh your memory and train your eyes to better recognize the things I'll be showing you today. The risk, if you don't have a general knowledge of heart anatomy, is that you may mistakenly conclude, as my 15 and 17-year-old kids have done, without having seen any of my videos, of course, that the stones I'll be showing you today just look like regular rocks, Dad. But if you do know a bit of the anatomy, you'll easily begin to see these rocks for what they are, an avalanche of evidence in support of theories about rapid petrification and the true biological origin of the many different kinds of rocks we see, which is something that mainstream geology has either completely missed or purposefully obfuscated. If we never make an effort to test things for ourselves, we can very easily be led astray. Then we're left to rely solely on the high priests of scientism to give us our truths or our doctrines. It's an incredibly worthwhile exercise to go out now and again to observe the world with new eyes and question even our most fundamental beliefs. We do have to be careful, though. It's quite easy to mislead ourselves, choosing to believe things just because they appeal to us. When I began to explore this subject, I was worried about doing just that. Being an artist, I'm no stranger to pareidolia. In fact, I love to let my mind make abstract connections. Take this photo of a tree, for example. Is this proof that Sigmund Freud has been reincarnated as a tree, cigar and all? Or how about this E.T. tree? The resemblance is undeniable, but these are clearly chance patterns emerging. But if I were to find an entire forest of E.T. or Freud trees, there might be something more to it. Our imaginations can take us to wonderful and creative places. But if we are going to draw conclusions or make statements that something is a fact, we better be ready with some hard evidence backing our claims. This video is that hard evidence. So how to avoid the pitfalls of cognitive bias and pareidolia? Science, baby! It's really simple. So simple, even a kid can understand it. Most people are familiar with the existence of petrified trees. It's not such a stretch in thinking to understand how something similar could happen to organs. But as far as everything we've been taught by mainstream geology about the origins of stones and the geological timeline, well, all that changes if these stones are indeed petrified organs. But what if it's just chance that the rocks I'll be showing you today only look like hearts? Trust me, I've asked myself the same question over and over. After coming across the rock I featured in the first video, I began to form a hypothesis. If it were truly a heart, then I should be able to go out and find the same specific forms repeating themselves across a variety of different sizes and different kinds of rock. I believe that by the end of this video, you'll be convinced, or at least open to the possibility that these stones are indeed petrified organs. In the next video, I'll discuss the various mechanisms behind how all of this could have occurred. In a moment, I'll show you footage of me out looking for and gathering these heart stones. In the second half of the video, I've brought the ones I could back to my office and sorted them by category, making it easier for you to identify the key anatomical features and to begin to spot these for yourselves. Keep in mind that the stone I covered in the first video exhibited all of the features I'll be showing today in the other rocks. It seems as though I was led to find that rock, especially considering I found it just a few days after asking the universe to send me undeniable, conclusive mud fossil proof. Ironically, it is still to this day the most complete and detailed of the hearts that I've found. Each of the others exhibit several of the key features of hearts, but not all. My hope with this video is that some of you will be inspired to go out and find similar stones with even more irrefutable details, and that this evidence will ultimately lead to a revision of the earth science we call geology. I've approached this as scientifically as I could. I've made observations, formed a hypothesis, tested the hypothesis, have repeated the process several times with the same results. If we find our explanations for what we observe to be far-fetched, convoluted mental gymnastics, then we should take a step back and try to see the bigger picture and ask ourselves if there isn't a simpler explanation for what we are observing. In moments like these, Occam's razor can be our best friend. If our river bottoms are examined as potential crime scenes, then what we find there may indeed be the evidence of the biological remains of some great cataclysm. So, without further ado, okay, this is only my third outing doing this. I found that first heart that we've gone through, and then I went out on one other occasion and found over a dozen. Now here, in this little space right here, in the space of about 10 minutes, and I found all of these. And I'm going to show you how all of those are very likely hearts. So you can see they come in a variety of shapes and sizes and colors. And I think that all depends on what creature they came from and how they were fossilized, what they were in when they were fossilized. So you have to understand that these are going to flatten out in different ways. Some of their corners are going to be better defined, but there's going to be certain morphological similarities, and I'll show you how to recognize these in just a moment. So, triangular shape, you've got this rising up here, you've got a cutaway here, and oftentimes here. So I think what's happening is that one of the two ventricles is almost all muscle. That would be this one. And the other one is filled with a lot more fluid. So when it starts to fossilize and it compresses, I think that's why it's going in here, because this ventricle is much smaller. This is all muscle. Okay, so again, we've got blood vessels, cut out, openings here And then this could have been the aorta up here, and then this is where it attached. Another same pyramid shape. You've got the openings here. Up at the top, you've got clear openings for the aorta, vena cava. Here's the attachments. We turn it over, we get this classic. It's shaped like a harp. Actually, I just realized, harp, heart, interesting. So you're gonna have the cutout here, and again, there's those openings. Okay? Stay with me here, it'll be worth it. So here again, you've got this repeating shape of the rising up. You've got a cutout here, a cutout here. So this would be the other ventricle again. This was definitely some kind of an opening, I think, if it was a heart. We turn it on the side again, we see openings here. We see the chunky area where this would have attached. Remember, I gathered these in the space of less than 10 minutes. So here again, if we look, this mound here, it's like there's a plane going this way, a plane going this way, and a plane going that way. Look at that, same thing here. You've got just the overall hint of the shape, and you can see that harp shape that it exhibits from both sides. And then here again, same thing. Here you got the hint of blood vessels. You've got the connection for the pleura. Maybe more blood vessels here. You got this, here we've got just more straight lines. Well, I must confess that this is rather addictive. So now I've done another 10 minutes of hunting, and I'm going to go through these rocks with you. And right about there is where I began the first video. So this is just groundbreaking stuff. If you've seen my other videos, you understand that I'm interested in accumulating a large number of coincidences, and I think this is really just kind of the nail in the coffin. I don't even know how to add them up. But here you see the harp shape again. You see the cutout here. You've got that 3-plane thing going on. As we turn here, you can see the hint of openings to former blood vessels. Even from this side, it looks like a heart or a harp. And you can see the connections to the pleura. Here, same thing. You got the cutout, not so pronounced, but you still got these 3 planes. You've got this cutout here, openings to the blood vessels, more blood vessels, and connection to the pleura. So I mean, there they are again. Here we go. Same thing. There and there, there and there. Got the overall shape, the harp form, cutouts up at the top, a little bit rough and kind of messy where it was attached. There you got the 3 planes again. You've got the blood vessels at the top, in the sides, right there. And then when we look at it this way, you've got the additional openings for the blood vessels. Harp shape cut out, possibly a little rough on top. This one is just more for the overall morphology. There you get the hint of the opening to the blood vessels. Again, harp shape, 3 planes, the top attachments. It's interesting coincidence, isn't it? Considering they're all different sizes. So if they were part of some bigger rock structure that broke off and then they just happened to erode that way, isn't that weird that they're all kind of the same shape and they have the same indentations that look a lot like blood vessels? Here we go. This is a perfect specimen. There you've got your ridge, your 3 planes. You've got indentations here. Look, connections to the pleura and possible blood vessel openings. And then the cutout here, no real hint of things. But you can see even from this side, Same shape. So are we getting to the heart of the matter? Got your three shapes. The top, blood vessel openings, blood vessel openings. These last three are really spectacular. Okay, got your cutout again. There's a lot of other holes here, so who knows, maybe it started to decompose before it fossilized, but look at this. How about that? So, how many coincidences does it take before you have a preponderance of evidence? And how many coincidences before something is just a fact? So, if we go to the end, not so much on this one, but on all of these other ones. Let's see, here, 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 here. It's all kind of chunky, and that is where the insertion of the upper blood vessels and I think into the pleura would have been. Look at these beautiful blood vessel openings, the planes, the roughness at the top. And let's not forget the harp shape. Here's one that's a bit more elongated. You got your blood vessels on top. This one's really smooth, so maybe there's been some erosion, but you still got the sides there and that overall harp shape. In literally about a half an hour of walking around, I found all of these in varying sizes, different colors, slightly different shapes, but overall exhibiting these same morphology. These three planes, the cutouts, the blood vessels. It's repeating itself over and over again, and it's scalable. And it's so scalable that I'll show you this one last one here. Didn't want to move it because it's so big. So this is the biggest one I've ever found yet. Look at the size of that. Here's my foot. How big was that being? So you got your planes, you've got your openings, and check this out. Ta-da! They're all a little different. It depends on how they got compressed. Check it out. Right there on the sides. Your blood vessels here. Here at the top, the attachments. That harp shape. How big was this creature? What was it? That's the thing. They could have been humanoid, they could have been animals. They seem to be all shapes and sizes. But whatever that was, it was big. And where to go? This one? Ah, here. Look at this. Here's another one. This one's really obvious. Cut out, blood vessel, attachment to the pleura. Let me turn this one over. Harp shape. That was under the earth, but Yeah, so even the biggest rocks here are showing the same form. So one more for the record books. This is a big one. There's my foot. See the cutout on the left. See the harp shape, the different planes. There aren't very many rocks this size here. They're all kind of small, but even the biggest ones, this one and one I'll show you over there in a second, even these have these same shapes to them. So which ones are hearts, which ones are livers, which ones are lungs? I've got another video I do on ones that I think are livers. Got some of those that I've gathered as well. That one's got a little bit of the features, but it doesn't, it's... Anyway, hope you enjoyed the journey. I sure have. It's been enlightening, to say the least, to have a theory about something and go out and test the theory and then come back with literally an avalanche of evidence in support of that theory. I mean, that's how science is supposed to be done, right? Rather than scientism. Hey, check that out. There's another one. Look at that, the rough spots on top. The openings for the blood vessels. So I don't know about all the river bottoms of the world, but at least the river bottoms that have all these nice smooth rocks that you see all over the place. There's your three planes, and then you've got, it's hard to see, but there, you've got that overall harp shape with the openings. There's probably your aorta vena cava at the top, and your pleural attachment. I don't know about you guys, but for me, case closed. You just go out and try this yourselves. See if you come up with the same kinds of results I have, because if this can be reproduced all over the world, it'll be undeniable, Hello. So, I just finished a nice conversation with a friend, and while talking to him on this Pebble Beach right here, I did a little more looking. It was about a half an hour conversation, and this is what I found. Quite a coincidence, huh? I don't know about that one, but it's still got the same shape. Some of them are a little fleshy. Very, very specific shapes over and over again. All slightly different, but all the same. You can even see the little hints of openings in them. And there are more than hints. Yeah. So, look at that beauty. Taking that one home. They're all slightly different rock. They're all a little different, but yeah. All beautiful in their own way, huh?